Hello, YouTubers. This is Joe Bravo and Mo Bravo's Knife Reviews. Ramping up for a really fun video in the next week or so with multiple deployment knives. I know it's been my shtick for a while. I've really been enjoying it. But I wanted to share some other knives that I've gotten recently or been on the channel, and I'd like to compare them. And these are just stud opening knives. As you can see, I do have a couple of production knives. Compare them to full custom and CNC assisted knives. So I'm just going to get right into it. The first stud knife that I owned with a frame lock was the Benchmade Monolock 765. This is the mini monolock. It does run on bearings, but they're a little wonky. I really enjoyed this knife. I think this was the first high-end knife it was that I purchased, and I really liked it because it got me used to thumb flicking. This knife from Benchmade, believe it or not, only has a single stud, and you can back it out and flip it. Through my journey, I figured out how to spidey flick, and I have been reverse flicking studs probably about over a year now. Flip this stud over, and I pretty much open every single box, every single package, pack every knife, utilizing my Benchmade 765 in M390 steel. I did put an aftermarket eBay pocket clip on there. It's a deep carry. It is aggressive as all hell, and you know, it's fine for what it is, but when you compare it to some of the better clips that are out there, you know, pales in comparison. So ultimately, this is the thing that started me on thumb knives, or thumb studded knives. I believe it was Benchmade's answer to the Sebenza, and they thought that this was going to be the Sebenza killer. They made a smaller model and a larger model, but they really messed up. You see these two holes? The larger model, I believe it was the 763 or the 761, had only one configuration, and it was for tip up carry, and you and I both know that's booty. Nobody likes tip up carry anymore. So the 765, however, did have the second holes for modifying the carry to tip down carry, and you know, it was really fortunate that the local knife store had this, as I was scoffing at the $400 knives from CRK at the time, as who was going to spend $400 on a pocket knife. This one came back from Amazon as a return. Somebody scratched it up, and the rest was history in my journey of high-end knives. So speaking at the bottom price point, you know, I don't know if this is even the bottom at this point, but it was the first, and I wanted to share that with you guys. I'm going to move over to the Boker. I believe I had this knife on the channel a couple times. I compared it to the custom and showed what a great deal this is at $105. D2 steel, German-made Boker. It is a full production knife. Has the Efros style pocket clip. And this is just a really nice knife. It's called the Efros Jive, and it's the Boker Jive, designed by Brian Efros. And this is hysterically fun to flip. It's on bearings. It has a great action. It's a frame lock, titanium. Again, really, really nice knife for its price point. And yeah, if you don't have the money, even to pick up one of these are about $225 on the secondary in nice condition. You know, I'll be honest with you, if you went with the Boker at $105, if you could find them, that's a really quality knife. You know, you're not going to have M390 steel. You're not going to have Benchmade's warranty. They warranty this for life. And it's funny because they warranty it for life, or until they run out of the parts that they have available to warranty the knife. I have a ACFK Benchmade floating around here in ATS 34 steel, and it's funny, I had sent this thing back to get sharpened, and a long time ago, and when I did, they came back and said, hey, just so you know, the next time if anything happens to this blade, we can't replace it because we don't have the parts. It's funny, you can really tell how old it is. Again, you got a tip down style carry, but in this wonky location. It's wild, just to see how knives were made back in the day. I say back in the day because this is like, I think early 2000s. Definitely not on on bearings, but just something to think about, to consider when you go into buying a Benchmade. If you buy something like this, I sent this in to get fixed. It's an Osborne Benchmade 940. They probably will never run out of parts for this thing. Whereas some of the obscure ones, like this knife or the Benchmade 765 monoblock, they might not have parts going forward. So just something to consider. But again, pretty good warranty. You send it in, it's forever. They really take care of you. I think 6-7 years ago when I bought this, it had the tip grounded off. Somebody from the military ground it off so that they could use it in doping their scope, believe it or not. So I sent it in, and Benchmade gave me an S30V blade for the knife. I think it was 30 or 50 bucks, which again was something to say about Benchmade's warranty. Moving forward, I have two of these knives have been on the channel before. I'm going to go with my Matt Christensen CK Knife Works small Tyrant. This is probably one of my favorite smaller studded knives. I apologize that the lighting can't show you how good the Damascus is on this collar, and again, and how nice it is on this pocket clip. Yeah, you can see it there. Just glows, but for whatever reason, camera representation in my light box really shines in the natural light. But this detent is awesome. I didn't think I was going to like this knife, as this knife is rather small in comparison to what I'm used to, coming in just under 7 inches. But I think what really makes it stand out from the smaller knives that I don't care for is how tall it is. I could really get my hand into this and grip it with my large palms, where thinner knives, even the 940 tends to be a little bit on the thin side, but thankfully with the axis lock, there's not too much manipulation to get in there. On the thinner blades, I'm trying to think of what I have here that's thin. I kind of struggle sometimes with my big palms getting access to the lock bar and manipulating the knife, but this guy is fantastic. And something else to be said, the blade stock on this Christensen small Tyrant is so thick that it just rips out of your hand. It is awesome, and it may not be drop shut, but it is shake shut, and it just flies. It is so fun to fidget with. And what I really like is you could push down on that lock bar and really give yourself a lot more detent pressure to deploy the knife. And that's why I find myself gravitating more towards frame locks than lyre locks, as with my journey through deploying knives, and even I guess you could say from the 765, my hand is on the lock bar when I flip this thing. It's just how I picked it up and figured out through the help of others on how to spidey flick, before I figured out how to hold the knife without putting any lock bar pressure on there. But now that I do, I could really push down on that lock bar and get a really enjoyable flick out of it. And this Tyrant, bonkers. Go over to the BBM. I know I've had this a BBM on the channel 3, 4, almost 5 times, I want to say. And again, Nick Choppin and Robert Carter collaboration knife. This is hysterical. It is so much fun. It was fun as just a hole opener. It is more fun as a studded knife. I almost want to call this multiple deployment, because you could flick with the fuller, or you could flick with the stud, or you could flick with your thumb. You really have to be sensitive on the lock bar pressure, because it is a small knife. Yeah, I ain't going to be able to fuller flick this on the thumb side, but really enjoyable. Really, really nice. get it on the ruler, and she comes in at a hair over 7 inches. Let's call it 7 1/8 for government sake. But again, what's really nice is that you could put a whole bunch of pressure on that lock bar and really get a nice snap, and you could deploy straight up and down, or like I used to say, you could go out to the left and really make it jump. But at the end of the day, man, just wowed me when I picked it up, because the BBM I really enjoyed, but now that I'm into the studded knives, it was really interesting to see how that was going to transition. But man, this is, I don't even know if I could say it's better than a duckling, because the duckling had one hell of a snappy ass detent. And I will say, you really got to be off that lock bar when you thumb flick this. I mean, all the way down there. So something to think about if that bothers you. I got big hands, but I don't find myself thumb flicking as often. I do mainly spidey flick, but man, hell of a detent, especially when you're on that lock bar pressure. But really quality knife if you can find one. I know Nick's been hitting the custom knife shows again. He was down at Kentucky. Where the hell else was he? Tennessee, I think it was. So if you get a chance, I believe he's going to be at NYCKS this year in Jersey City. So I'm going to hopefully meet him in person. Maybe I'll get him to bring that and show him and tell him about how much I enjoy that knife in person. So this last knife is a Maverick Concepts Miller. This is CNC assisted. So Nick makes the frame, the scales off the CNC, very similar to the duckling. Really stellar job with this one. This guy comes in at 2.8 ounces. Just to kind of give you a understanding, the Benchmade TI monolock, frame lock, no backspacer or nothing, that comes in at 3.2. Very light knife. This is a little bit bigger than the monolock, and it's coming at 2.8 ounces, and it's got Magna Cut blade steel, which is the hottest thing since sliced bread. And the Miller is 7, I want to say a little bit more than 7.5. I don't know if it's officially 7. No, it's definitely less than 7 3/4. So what's that? 7 5/8, we'll call it. The TI monolock is smaller and weighs more. This guy is less than 7.5, 7 and 3/8. So just something to think about. This Miller with the carbon fiber show side scale, it's terrific. It really is. It's light. It sits in the pocket nicely. It's on bearings, and again, you could really push down on that lock bar and really get that flex to put that pressure on that detent. I had the CMF small Mac. Listen to me. The Mac CMF Crusade, which is the CMF designed Crusade that Mac, or I guess Jim, I can't remember his last name, from HMC put together. And I really love that knife. But man, when I won this one on the first come first serve, I didn't like to have two knives that are really, really similar in appearance and function. So I sold the Mac Crusade and replaced it with this guy, and I really haven't looked back. Believe it or not, this is a little bit more expensive than the Mac Crusade table. Mac Crusade runs at around $800. This was $900 table. And, if you get one from Nick directly, he offers a forever spa for free, which is really great. He'll sharpen them up for you, maybe apply a different stone wash, or, do a forever spa. So that was certainly one of the reasons why selling a knife like the Mac Crusade that I bought on the secondary, in replacing that with something I got directly from Nick, who's got a great spa service when you buy direct, kind of makes it a no-brainer. And Ian and Jim, they're using CTS XHP steel, where Nick's using the Magna Cut. So again, it was a no-brainer. I'd love to pick up another Mac Crusade at table, but until then, this will certainly do. I will say this about Jim at HMC's Pocket Clip. Man, he does a great job. I bet he stays up at night. Not to say that this is not as good. Well, it's not. But, I think that's because Jim's Pocket Clip on that Mac Crusade was that much better. If I had to pick one, it'd be a very difficult one to do. I might lean towards the Miller right now just because of the value versus, having a full custom. This price gets up there. And I like the BBM, but the MagnaCut and the lightness and, a little bit deeper of a pocket carry. This guy does stick up a little bit more. It is a little thicker too. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet. Or maybe it's just because I like this Miller. But one thing that really surprised me, my BBMs did not drop shut. And this thing is a guillotine. It reminds me of a Holt or a Sham. I'm really impressed by that. I was not expecting that. The Miller is nice and smooth. If you like smooth, you can tune this thing and dial it up nice. There is a little flex, being that it's carbon fiber on the show side scale. Something to consider. Again, I still stand by, even with these two knives being as good as they are, this is probably my favorite thumb stud deployment knife I've ever had. Do I keep it? I'm not sure. I put this one up a couple times and debating on whether or not to do it again. It is a stellar knife. I don't think anybody will have a problem with Christensen Knife Works knife, but man, I even had a large Tyrant and I didn't like it as much as I liked the small Tyrant. So we'll see what sticks around, but if I am putting use, I will say these two knives I have used. I have put hard use to them, in regards of cutting cardboard or using them for being a knife, and both of them perform admirably. What you're going to get with the D2 steel is a little bit less resistivity to corrosion, which is where the M390 comes in. For guys that use tape, use these knives to cut open boxes, I will say Gugon works really well getting the tape residue out without having to scrub or worry about anything. So it's better on the M390 and the MagnaCut steels that have low corrosion resistance, and I'm pretty sure Nick uses Nitro V on these guys. This didn't come with a COA, so I'm not sure, but I'm rambling only because I'm having fun talking about knives. It's probably the longest video I've done in quite some time. If you're still here, thank you, but I can't say enough how excited I am about the new video I've got coming. I got a couple of knives in the mail. One from Anton van der Vesjusen. Another one was from Philippe Georgette. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. Philippe with the 520 is from France, and that's coming from him direct on the channel. I'm sure you've seen the 520 from CKF and the 523 that I have. Both of them were stellar knives. I had frame lock and I had liner lock configurations of both. And I've got this 520 custom with some killer Westinghouse micarta coming in, and I'd love to see how it compares to the production versions I had from CKF. And I also have a special Anton knives prototype. He's finally made me one with a thumb stud and a front flipper, and I'm going to break out all the stops. I've got two Asukas, I've got a Cortex, I've got the pick, I even have a Waka. I really cannot wait to do dual deployment front flipper studded or front flipper hole opening knives and compare them to this Anton knife. So can't wait to share that with you. I hope you guys all have a lovely week, and with the holidays coming, if I don't talk to you, have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holiday, and a safe and Happy New Year. Peace.